zoom out a little. Okay, so this is your starting point. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna create 4 tank tops, and each tank top is gonna come in 2 colorways. You're gonna start here with this tank top all the way over on the left, and then we're going to copy and paste it, and then make alterations to then create the second tank top, the third tank top, and your last tank top. Or actually, if you wanted, you would just sketch this first tank top, make alterations to get your second one, and then sketch this third tank top, make alterations to get the last one. So I'm gonna zoom in, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our pen tool. So right now I can see this is my pen tool. It's really easily confused with this curvature tool. We're just using the pen tool. I'm going to tear away my palette down here to get my pen tool. I'm going to go all the way over, grab this guy. Oh, and I can also see I don't have my advanced tools open. So I'm going to come down to the ... the edit toolbar. I'm going to come up here to the top corner, the little hamburger, and I'm going to choose advanced so that I can see more of my tools. I'm going to do that again. So there's all the advanced pen tools there. All right. So when I start sketching and tracing something, what I like to do is come here, get rid of my fill. So I'm on the toolbar on the left. Let me see if I can make that a little bigger. I'm going to get rid of my fill here, and I'm going to change my stroke color to red. This is just so that I can see my stroke as I'm drawing. And so when we start sketching, let's analyze this. We want to break this down into whole shapes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch this, the outline of the whole tank top. So I'm going to sketch the whole front, and then I'm going to come back in, and I can draw all of these drape lines separately. I'm going to draw the stitch line separately, and I'm also going to copy and paste the front to then create the back view. So I'm just going to start here with my pen tool, and I'm going to start drawing my front. Remember, we want to have as few anchor points as possible when we're drawing. The more anchor points you have, the more they're going to fight against each other, and also the more data the file is going to have. So I'm just going to start sketching, and I'm only going to sketch half of the tank top. And I'll show you 2 ways that we can do this. So I'm going to click and release here in the middle, and let me zoom in so we can really see this. So I clicked and released in the middle. I'm going to come here to about halfway up the neckline, and I'm going to click and drag to get my handlebars. I'm going to come up to the shoulder, and I'm going to click and release, come across, click and release. Now, when you're doing a neckline or an armhole, I always recommend you just have one at the shoulder, one at the middle of the armhole with a handlebar, and then one at the bottom with no handlebar. So let me do that one more time. So I'm starting here at the bottom of the neckline. I'm going to click and release, so no handlebars. I'm going to come about halfway up the neckline, and I'm going to click and drag to get the handlebars. So that's going to let me control that curve. I'm going to come up to the top of the shoulder, and I'm going to click and release. So I only have 3 anchor points along my neckline. I'm going to come across my shoulder, click and release. I'm going to come halfway down my armhole. I'm going to click and drag to get those handlebars, and I'm going to come to the bottom of the armhole, and I'm going to click and release. I can come back and I can fix that curve later. I'm going to come, I see this has a little bit of a flare, a little bit of a curve. I can see if I come straight down, I'm going to miss that curve. So what I'm going to do is come down about halfway, or maybe 3/4. I'm going to click and release, and then come down here and click and release. And I can come back and I can curve that later if I want. So now I'm just going to follow this bottom shape, click and release. I'm going to click and drag, click and drag. The gray, which is indicating the inside hem, I'm not going to draw that right now. That's going to be drawn separately. So right now I'm just focusing on drawing the hemline of the garment. So I could continue to sketch all the way around, But if I do that, I might not get a perfectly symmetrical garment. So instead, what I want to do, I'm going to get my direct selection tool, which is A, the shortcut command, and I'm going to select this, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to play around with my handlebars, maybe move the anchor points a little bit so that I can get this right into place. And I can zoom in a little bit. So get it, right on the line. Maybe I'm going to do Shift C, which is the convert anchor point, so that I can get a little bit of a curve right there. And I can see it's a little funky down here at the bottom. So I'm just using my direct selection tool, my white arrow, and I'm clicking on my anchor points. I'm also clicking and dragging on the handlebars just to kind of reshape things, to get them in a shape that I like. All right. So now I have half of it drawn. I'm going to get my selection tool and I'm going to copy. I'm going to Command C and then Command V for paste. So now I have a copy of that. I'm going to go up to Object, Transform, and Reflect. And I want to reflect it on the vertical axis. And then I also like to have the preview box checked so I can see, okay, yes, it's reflecting correctly. And then I'm just going to say okay. And then I can line this up right on top. So now I have two halves. Now let's test it out and try to fill it. So I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to select the other half. So I'm filling both of them at the same time. So if I fill them both, I could choose a color here. Maybe I want to make it kind of a yellowy orange. That it filled, but there's a space in the middle. And that's because this is not connected. We need to create a closed shape so that everything's connected. So what I need to do, I'm going to zoom in. There's two ways to connect this. I can either get my pen tool, so P for pen. I'm going to click here, get that little backslash, and then come over to the other side and I get like a little circle. It lets me know that I'm connecting those two. I'm joining them together. And then I would actually delete one of those anchor points, grab my direct selection tool, and then move that anchor point over. So then I just have one anchor point there at the middle. My other option, which I'll demonstrate down here at the bottom, is I can grab the lasso tool and I'm going to draw a circle around those two anchor points with the lasso tool. So they're both selected. So it's just really kind of a quick way to select those two anchor points. You can see these other anchor points are white. So that means that they're not selected. Only these two anchor points here in the middle are selected because they're blue. And then I'm going to do Command J, shortcut command on my keyboard, which then joins them. So now let's see what happens when I go to fill this with a color. Maybe I'll choose purple this time. So now you can see we have a closed shape. We don't have that funky line going down the middle because we were able to close it completely. I would change my stroke color to black. I only use red to trace because I already have a black stroke on the tank top that you're tracing, and then you can't see your line. So for now, maybe you can just move this over to the side. And then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna copy and paste that, my front view. I'm gonna line it up here, back on top, and I'm gonna get rid of my fill. I'm gonna go ahead and change my stroke color back to red, just so I can see the detail. So now what we wanna do is we wanna use the front to then create the back view. The reason I do it this way is because when you go to do a line sheet, eventually down the road, you're going to need the front view and the back view. Right now, we're just doing the front view. But when you go to do your back view, you want to, you don't want to have to like re-sketch it and start all over and waste time. So really, when you're sketching 75 styles for a season, if you're a designer, you want to be as efficient as possible. So I just like automatically do my back view. So what I'm going to do is, and so the back view is this gray. We always indicate the inside back with a light gray color. So what I'm going to do is start using these anchor points and I'm going to move them to then follow this shape for the back view. So the first thing I can do is grab the center front neck, and I'm going to click and drag it up to create my center back neck. I don't need these other anchor points here, so I'm going to get my delete anchor point tool, and I'm actually going to delete those 2 anchor points. And so now I kind of have this funky shape. Well, I'm going to come get my anchor point tool or my convert anchor point tool, and I'm going to click and drag. And now I can shape that back neck to have a nice curve. Let me make this color a little bit brighter of a red to see. All right. So there I've taken the neckline up, and now that is the back neck. Next, I need to change the armhole shape. So this has a racer back shape. So I'm just going to grab this center point on the armhole, and I'm going to drag it over here to create that racer back shape. All right, so that is our back view. The last thing I need to do is look at the drape line. So I'm going to zoom in down here, and what I can do is just take this anchor point, bring it over. I can straighten this out. Sorry, it's frozen on me a little bit. Okay. I'm going to grab this anchor point and bring it over here. I'm going to delete this anchor point. So we're just kind of reshaping things. I have to get my selection tool. So you have to use your direct selection tool to change the handlebars. All right, so now I'm going to zoom out. So since this is my back view, I'm going to fill it with a light gray color. So there's my light gray. Oh, I didn't have it selected. Let's try that again. All right, so there it's filled with light gray. I'm going to change the stroke color to black. And I'm going to bring this over and see how it looks. So it's sitting on top. I want it to sit behind that front view. So I'm going to go up to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And there I have my front view and my back view. And now I need to work on these drape lines and then my stitch lines. So the drape lines, I'm just going to get my pen tool. I don't want a fill on my drape lines. I'll just change my stroke color to a bright red so you can see it for now. And then I'm just going to click and release, click and release. Click and release. All right. And so then I can drag these over. So it's these drape lines is kind of what give this top some dimension. I'm going to bring those lines all the way down to the bottom. We're going to learn in a later assignment how to make them actually look like drape lines. Right now, they don't really look much like drape lines because they don't have a where they go from thick to thin, but that's okay. We'll worry about that later. So I can just click and drag, and then I can just change my stroke to black for all of those. So the last thing I need to do is add my stitching on the neckline. So I'm just going to get my pen tool, and let me zoom in here. Yeah, I'm noticing with Citrix, the space bar doesn't really work. Oh, and I have these little wings up here. We can talk about those wings. So I'm going to draw 2 rows of stitching. So I'm going to click and release, come down here, click and drag to get a curve, and then come down to the bottom and click and release. And then getting my direct selection tool, I can reshape this a little bit. All right, so when I say stitch lines, don't think that you have to draw all of those stitch lines individually. That would take forever and that would be super annoying. So instead, I want to go and have my window and my stroke palette open. If your stroke palette only looks like this, all you need to do is click on the little hamburger and say show options, and then the rest of this will pop up. So what we're going to do is create a dashed line. So I'm going to check that box, but let me go over here. There we go. So I have my line selected with the direct selection tool. I'm going to click dashed line, and it automatically defaults to a 12 dash. Let's go ahead and change that to a 2.5 dash. And then we also need to have, say, a 2 gap. So that looks pretty good. We can keep our weight at 1. I'm going to go to the corner here and I'm going to do a rounded join, and that just kind of softens the, you can also do a little round. Yeah, let's do a round cap there instead, not the corner. Let's do a round cap. So that kind of softens the stitch line. And actually we could go down to like a 0.75. So there I have 1 row of stitching, and then what I can do is with my selection tool, my black arrow, I can copy that and then paste it. And now I have 2 rows of stitching. I can select both of these, copy, paste, object, transform, reflect. I'm going to say okay. And then I have my other side. And then you could join these. Oops, didn't join. So we want these to be parallel. All right, and then zoom out and whoa. And there we go. We have our very first tank top. So what you want to do is bring this over to a new artboard. I don't want you turning things in on the assignments that I give you. You're going to open up a new page. So or new artboard. So what I'm going to do to move this around, if I just click and drag, it's only going to move the front, right? It's not going to move the whole thing. So what I want to do is group it before I move it or copy it. So with my selection tool, I'm going to click and drag a box over the tank top, and then I'm going to go up to object group. And now when I go and click on it with my selection tool, you can see how the whole thing moves as one unit. I'm going to copy this, so Command C, and then I'm going to come over to a blank page that I've started, and I'm going to paste it. And this is where we're going to start setting up our line sheet and doing our additional colorways. So I could copy and then paste. And then I'm going to do my waterfall layout. And then with my direct selection tool, I'm going to click on the front and I'm going to change the color. Now, we don't want to, with this grouped, we don't want to select it with the selection tool and then say, okay, I want to change the color to red. I want the color of the, or let's do like a mint. Mint. So what you're going to wonder, okay, what happened? Well, you had, the whole thing was selected, it was grouped, and then you changed the fill color. So what it did is it added a fill color on all of the stitch lines. It added a fill color on all of these drape lines. So you don't want to use the selection tool to change the color of things. Instead, what you want to do is grab your direct selection tool, just select the front view here. So we see the purple is activated, and then we can come in and we can change the color. Like that. So there, now we have our first tank top, and we have 2 colorways. Do you guys have any questions about that so far?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Like I know, like since we're just working on like computers and like just like at home, we're just using like our mouse pad and stuff. But like in the industry and like actually having a job, would we be using like the computerized pens and stuff like that?
That's a good question. So actually most designers, they use a Wacom tablet. So they use or a Wacom tablet. So yeah, it's a pen that's on a trackpad. Some designers will use a pen that works directly on the screen. It really just depends on the company that you're working for and their technology. But yeah, I recommend that if you're just working with a laptop and all you have is your touchpad on your laptop, your fingers are gonna die. This is gonna be so hard to sketch. I encourage you to get a mouse. If all you have is a laptop with the little trackpad, get a mouse at least. If we were on campus and in our computer lab, I have a classroom set of Wacom tablets, which is the pen that would be on the pad, and that's what I use to sketch.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is that Wacom, WACOM?
Yes.
Okay, thank
I
you.
used to say Wacom, and then I watched I was showing my class a video on how to use it, and they like the guy from Wacom was doing the demonstration. He said Wacom, and I was like, oops, I've been saying it wrong this whole time. So yeah, they vary in price and they vary in size. We have a pretty large size one here on campus. I find the smaller ones are really hard because you only have a small, and here I could actually, let's see if I can pull this up. I'll look up so this is the pen with the tablet. So here, this is what they look like. So these are the 3 different sizes. I have a really hard time with this smaller size because say I'm drawing over here and then I need to like scroll over here, or I'm doing like a shape and I need to pull the handlebar. There just isn't enough space on this small tablet for me. It really bothers me. So actually what we have is the Intuos Pro, which is the larger size on campus. And that's what I like to use. They are expensive. I don't know how much this is. Let's see.
I think their cheapest one is like around either $60 to $80, I believe.
Okay. But yeah, if you were working in when I first used a Wacom, I actually had to put my mouse in my desk at work to force myself to use the Wacom because it was so hard to learn. It was like learning to do something new because you're just so used to using a mouse. And now and it took me a day of having my mouse and my computer. And then I got really comfortable with the Wacom and I got really fast. Now, like my Wacom is at home right now and I'm on campus and I don't have it here with me. And I'm so annoyed that I have to draw with my mouse because my brain's just used to the other way. So yeah, this is a really handy tool. This is what a lot of designers use, but also some companies have a screen where you can, a computer where you can use the pen directly on the screen and you're not using this kind of a tablet. So every company is a little different. All right. So there we have our front view of our tank top number 1. Now what we're gonna do is, and let's go ahead and save this so we don't lose it. So I'm gonna go File, Save As. And so we're gonna go save on your computer. And this is where you have to decide, come up with a system that works for you. Do you want to save it on the Citrix desktop? So if you do, then go up to quick access, go to desktop and say save. And I'm going to call this C Bryant tank top and then say save. And then with this Illustrator options pops up, just say okay. I'm waiting for IT to come and update my laptop with Illustrator 2021. So that's now on the Citrix desktop, right? So when I'm ready to go and upload the assignment here, let me go to modules and then go to assignment due tank top. When I'm ready to upload it, then I would come to start assignment and I would go to upload file and I would choose my file. And then here I would find it on the Citrix PC, sorry, this, oh, I guess did I save it on my desktop? I don't know. Quick access, desktop, there it is, tank top. And then I would open it, I would upload it from there. My other option is if I want to save it on my desktop of my laptop, I would say file, save as. And then again, I would come down to this PC, go to desktop, go to local disk H, go to my desktop, and then say open and save it on my desktop. So really just come up with a system that works for you so you know where you're saving your files and where you're uploading them from, if that makes sense. All right, so we have our first style done. Now we're gonna do our second style. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to take my front view. I have my direct selection tool. I'm going to take my front view and my back view, and I selected them with the direct selection tool. I held down shift to select both, and I'm just going to get rid of the fill for right now. For some reason it's not working. Let's see. There we go. So I'm getting rid of my fill. And that is so I can bring this over here. I'm going to bring the front view on top. And I'm just going to move the anchor points to create the scoop neck. So instead of having a V-neck, I'm going to use my direct selection tool. My shortcut command is A. So if we were in class, probably I would say half to 3/4 of you, I would notice that you have your left hand either in your lap or maybe you're sitting on it and you're only using your right hand. You only have your right hand on the mouse. And then, yeah, you have your left hand maybe like in between your thighs or you're sitting on it. And so I'm going to encourage you, pull that left hand out and get it on the keyboard. So I use my pinky finger on my left hand to hit A for my direct selection tool. I use my thumb on the space bar to help me move around on the page. So my left hand is constantly doing shortcut commands. If you don't know your shortcut commands yet, that's okay, because we're going to learn them and you have a quiz on it later in the semester. But otherwise, it's going to take you a little bit longer to sketch because you're going to be coming over here trying to find the tool. Just want to point that out and make you aware of what's to come so you'll get more comfortable using the shortcut commands. So we want to change this V-neck into a scoop neck. So remember when I said when you're doing a neckline, you only want to have anchor points at the top of the shoulder with no handlebars, and then one anchor point at the middle of the neckline with a handlebar. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete these 2 anchor points that are on the side. So I'm going to get my delete anchor point tool. I'm going to delete this one, and then I'm going to get my direct selection tool, which is my A. And then I'm going to click and drag this anchor point up to the top right there. And now I just need to add the handlebars. So I'm going to use my convert anchor point tool and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag. And I actually have to kind of unwind it. It's kind of wound up like a pretzel. So what this looks like, if you were watching my hand is kind of going counterclockwise. I'm clicking, holding my click down on my mouse and I'm unwinding it to the left. And then I'm going to pull out the handlebars. I'm going to get my direct selection tool and I'm going to pull out the handlebars. And if you need to change the color to, like red so you can see it, you can do that. So there I have reshaped the neckline. So the way the handlebars work is the more parallel you have this handlebar to the ground, the more symmetrical and balanced of a curve you're gonna have. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now I'm gonna grab the anchor points on the armhole and I'm gonna click and drag them over because this one has a slightly wider strap, like that. So there, all I had to do was change the neckline and now I have my brand new front view. So now I'm just going to grab my front view and it's grouped, so it's in isolation. So I double clicked to go into the isolation. So now I can click and drag and bring this over. I can change my stroke to black. Maybe I want to change the fill of this. I'm gonna do maybe like a pale yellow and say okay. All right, now grab we can actually use, well, and I'll go ahead and just grab that back view. I'm gonna drag it over here. I'm still in isolation, drag it over here, grab my direct selection tool, and then all I'm gonna do is click and drag these anchor points over to reshape the armhole because this one doesn't have a racer back. And then I can bring this back over here. And then I can fill it with a gray. And you want the gray to be the same on all of your tank tops. And so we'll fix that on the other line sheet. So the last thing I have to do is just here, there's a neckband seam. So we can see this is a solid line on this neckline. It's a solid line. It's not a dash line. So that's indicating that there's just a seam there with probably like a 3/8 or 1/2 inch neckband, but there's no top stitching. And then here on the armhole, the two rows of stitching, that's indicating that there's a 2-needle cover stitch. So 2-needle cover stitch is a really cheap way to finish an armhole on a knit tank top. So we're going to be adding those stitches and then changing the neckline to have a neckband. So here, you could, if you wanted to, you could just delete the stitching there for the neckline, and you could just start a new. So I just clicked and released. I'm going to come here to the middle, click and drag, so we can just start fresh. Sometimes it's better to just start fresh than trying to like alter something. And then I clicked and released. I'm going to get my direct selection tool and I'm going to come back to then drag the handlebar. So anytime you want to adjust a handlebar, you have to use your direct selection tool. You can't be on the pen tool. All right, so there's one row, and then I could copy, paste, and then adjust it. Oh, and actually I'm doing the wrong thing. We're supposed to be, it's not supposed to have a dash. It's the seam, right? So I just came over here to my stroke palette and I unchecked the dashed line, and now I just have a seam here. All right. So now I can see my back view of the armhole is kind of peeking through. So I can just kind of reshape this if I don't want to see the gray of the back of the armhole. And then I'm going to add the 2-needle cover stitch here. Anybody tell me what happened? What's that gray? What's happening to my armhole stitching?
You forgot to turn off the fill.
Yeah, I got to turn off the fill here. So I got to turn off this fill. Cassie, you can't. So here back on the armhole, doing just a 2-needle cover stitch. So I'm going to grab my stroke palette, and again, I'm just going to click that dashed line. It'll remember. Oh, no, it didn't remember what we did before. So I'm just going to change the add a little round cap on there. It just kind of softens it a little bit. You could bring it down to a 0.75. And then I'm going to select it, and I'm going to do Command Copy. And then you could do Command V for paste. But I want to teach you something that's really helpful. So have this selected and do Command C to copy, and then do Command F as in Frank. And what that does is it pastes another one right in front of this. And then I'm going to use the arrows on my keyboard and I'm going to move it over slightly. I just feel like when you're doing something and you want them to be 2 rows to be parallel, it's just so much easier. If you do Command Paste, then you have to go and get it, and then you have to like line it up. And sometimes, you know, depending on if you're zoomed in or not, it's like really hard to get it lined up. So instead, you could just select it with your selection tool, do Command C, and then Command F as in Frank, and then use the arrows on your keyboard to just move it over slightly. So just a handy little tool. I'm going to grab my selection tool and I'm going to hold down Shift and select both of those rows of stitching. And then you can go up to Object Transform, and we're going to go to Reflect. And something I haven't showed you yet is you can also, so we're going to reflect it vertically, but you can also choose to make a copy. And so what it's going to do is it's going to kind of do the copy paste thing for you. Oh, and it's did something super weird. I don't know about that. So let's try that one more time. I'm selecting both of them, holding down Shift, and then I'm going to go up to Object, Transform, Reflect. There we go. And I'm going to choose Copy. And so what it's doing is it's kind of just taking away one step, so you don't have to do Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. All you have to do is select them and then go up to Object, Transform, and then you can choose Copy there, and then click and drag it over. All right, so I'm going to zoom out. Now I have my second tank top. I'm going to, so this is not grouped, so I'm going to click and drag over it, Command G to group it, Command C to copy it, and then come over to this page and then Command V to paste it. And then I'm going to paste another one because remember we want to have 2. And then maybe this one, I want to offer it in white. All right. Then we have our other 2 styles. So you have the option here of bringing this tank top over, laying it on top. And I'm going to delete the back view. So all I did was use my direct selection tool. I selected the back view. I'm going to delete it. I'm selecting the front view with my direct selection tool, getting rid of the fill so I can see through there. I'm going to use my my black stroke. I'm just going to change it to red so we can see this, and I'm going to zoom in. All right, so we can alter this tank top so that it looks like the slim fit tank top in the template. So we're just kind of, I'm using my direct selection tool. I'm just coming in here. I'm making a couple changes to the neckline and to the strap and the armhole shape. So just making the straps a little wider. The biggest changes we're going to have to do down here is at the hem. So I'm just going to select the drape lines and I'm just going to delete them. So I'm using my direct selection tool. I'm selecting them and then I'm just hitting delete on my keyboard. If you hit delete once, it still leaves the end points. So that's why I hit delete twice to delete them, to delete it all the way through. Now I'm going to select my my outline of the tank top and I'm going to start deleting anchor points. So I'm going to get my delete anchor point tool and I'm going to come in here. Oops, I wasn't right on the line, right on the anchor point. And I'm just going to start deleting these. So really all I need is an anchor point on each side and one in the middle. So I'm going to get rid of everything else. So I only have 3 anchor points down at the bottom of the hemline. So there's my 3. I'm going to use my direct selection tool and I'm going to reshape the side seams, bring this over to the hem. And then I can reshape. So I'm using my convert anchor point tool. I'm going to click and drag. get my direct selection tool, and I can reshape handlebars. Sometimes to get the shape you want, like I just need to move up this anchor point a little bit. And then I can reshape it. All right. So there I have my front view. And all I have to do, this one has the 2 needle cover stitch on the armhole. So all I have to do is change this front. Instead of having a neckband seam, I'm just going to change it to the same 2 needle cover stitch. So I can either go to my stroke window here and I can click on that dashed line, or I could grab my eyedropper tool. I is the shortcut command, and click on the existing stitch lines. And what it does is it applies the that stroke with the dashed line to my seam and converts it into just the 2 needle cover stitch, or just 1 row. And then what I'll have to do is copy and paste that to create my 2nd row. So I just did Command C, Command F. I'm using the arrows on my keyboard. I'm getting my direct selection tool. Shortcut command is A. And then just adjusting those. Looks like I need to reshape the armhole here because the shape got it's a little different. Oh, it looks like I have an extra row there. So just using my direct selection tool and reshaping these. You could just sketch a whole new tank top if you wanted to start over, but just trying to show you some shortcuts to save time so that you're, pulling things from your library as much as possible. So you don't have to resketch everything fresh every time. And then we just need to add the hem. We need a 2 needle cover stitch down here at the hem. So Command C, Command F, and then I'm just using the arrows on the keyboard. So there we have the front view, and all I have to do is create the back view. So what I'm going to do is just copy this, bring it over here, paste it. Can change the stroke there to black. And then all I'm going to do is copy and paste my front view. And then I'm going to come in here and just bring up the neckline to create the back view. And then I'm going to use the eyedropper, actually come over here, select that color. So I eyedropped the inside of this tank top so that I'm matching that same gray. And then I'm in isolation here. So I'm just going to double click to get into isolation, or I wasn't in isolation. It was a group, sorry. It's grouped. So I'm going to double click to go into isolation, grab that back view, and I'm going to go object, arrange, send to back. Oh, and I think my problem is, let's see where, oh, maybe I didn't make a copy of it. There it is. All right, so I'm going to color the front view pink. There we go. And then my back view, I'll use my eyedropper. There we go. So now I need to go object, arrange, send to back. And for some reason, it's not working. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to go object, ungroup, and see why it won't go to the back. There we go. So then now I can group it before I copy and paste to make my second colorway. So as you're working on coloring all of this up, I want you to consider how you're merchandising your colors. So you don't want to offer styles that are going to compete with each other, right? So here, you know, the customer, maybe she's going to buy a pink and the blue. This customer, this is a very similar tank. So you want to offer a variety of colors so that the buyer wants to buy all of them. If we were to offer both of these tanks in, you know, both in this purple color and in this blue color, then at the end of the day, the buyer is only going to choose one of the styles. They're not going to order both styles. So that's why you want to offer a range of colors so that maybe the buyer will buy everything. So that's where merchandising comes in. So even designers need to understand merchandising principles and how a buyer thinks. And so then this last tank top, again, you can copy and paste this, bring it over here, and then adjust all of the stitch lines, neckline, anchor points to get this, we would call this a high-low hem racer back tank with a scoop neck. So you'll work on that one. And then what you're going to do is think of a brand that would retail the tank tops. So here I have Zara. So I went and I got the Zara logo. So let's say Zara logo. And I'm just going to go to images and I'm just going to take a screenshot of their logo. See if it'll let me drag this. Nope. So I'm going to have to go to File, Open. And let's see if it's on the desktop. I wonder, oh, it's on my desktop probably. So local disk H, desktop, and then date modified. There's my screenshot that I just took, and then open. And then it puts it in a new file. So I'm just going to copy it, bring it over here. And then there I have my logo. And just to make it look a little more professional, like a real line sheet, I'm going to swap these, do a black line, maybe increase my stroke to 2. And then maybe you might find that these are all too big and you need to scale them down. If you do need to scale them down, what you need to do is select all of them and scale them down proportionally. I like to have my sketches, the line sheet is really about the sketches. You don't want to have a big giant logo up here taking up half of the page. You don't need your font to be really huge. This page really serves a purpose of showing off the sketches. So try to make the sketches as large on the page as possible, but still allowing room for some information. So just kind of keep that in mind. So I'm going to name each of these styles. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to get my type tool. So maybe we'll call this the air tank. Maybe this is the sea tank. And so you're going to name every style and then also add the colorway names. So usually I make the colorway name a little bit smaller. So maybe I'm going to call this white cap. sunshine. So I'm kind of going with a outdoor kind of theme, I guess. This color, we'll just call it ocean. Actually, we'll call this one tide. I don't know. This one's just going to be lilac. And so on. So this is how we start our line sheet. So all I'm missing is that last tank from over here. So you would make your 2 colorways, bring it over here. And then when you're all done, you'll go File, Save. And so when I'm grading this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see that each style is grouped. So each sketch is grouped. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to right click and I'm going to check and see how many anchor points you have. So if you have, 10 anchor points along the armhole, I'm going to point that out. And I'm going to, again, recommend you just have 1 at the top of the shoulder, 1 at the middle, with the handlebars and 1 at the bottom. So I'm gonna give you guys a lot of feedback, and it takes me a while to grade these because I do open them up and I grade them 1 by 1 and give you lots of feedback so you can improve on your sketching. So I'm going to be looking to see, did you name each style? Did you put the colorway name underneath? I'm going to be looking to check your balance on the page in terms of the proportion of the size of the sketch and, the white space, like how much space did you take up? What I see a lot of the times is students will do something like this. They'll make their sketches really small and then they make their font really big. And so this, this isn't helpful because a buyer wants to see the details in the sketch. It's really about the sketch. So make the sketch as big as possible. But also we, don't get crazy creative with the layout. We want to follow this waterfall layout. This is a very traditional layout. In my portfolio class in the spring, that was one of the comments from our industry guest judges that, work in the industry on line sheets all day. And they were looking at students' line sheets that got very creative with their layout. And they're like, nope, just do a waterfall layout. This is what the industry is expecting. So I just want to emphasize doing this waterfall layout and kind of keeping each style separate. So down here, maybe this is the kind of running out of room a little bit. This is where you have to get creative. Maybe we just call this the fitted tank. Maybe this colorway is ocean. And you can, choose an interesting font for your style names and your colorway names. You don't have to choose a basic font, but also don't go crazy and choose something that is, really funky and hard to read. Like, don't choose something like that. Like, we can't read that easily. You could choose something that's, stylish or has, stylistic, but don't go crazy when you're choosing your fonts. So then you'll save this and then up to working on the tank top. Here you can see an example of the line sheet. So actually you can see over here, I put the style name over towards the side. You can see I chose kind of a fun font, but it's not crazy. It's still, we can read it. One thing I didn't show you is how to do a black colorway. So I know students like to do, they like to change the thread color. We always use black thread. We always are going to use black drape lines. So no matter what style, what color your style is, it's always going to have a light gray inside back neck. It's always going to have black stitching. It's always going to have black drape lines, except the only exception is if you're doing a really dark colorway like a black or like a super dark navy. So if you are doing black or super dark navy, let me show you. Let's say in this style here, We're going to offer a white colorway, and then we want to offer a black colorway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this. It's grouped. I'm going to double click to go into the isolation. I'm going to choose one of the stitch lines. And what I can do is go up to select, same, fill in stroke. And so what it's going to do is it's only going to select the stitch lines on this tank top. You can see it's not selecting the ones on the other tank top because I'm in isolation. I can come over here and I can grab, activate the stroke that's black, and I can change it to white. And then I'm going to come down here to this line, and I'm going to go up to select, same, fill in stroke. And so it's going to select all of those drape lines. I'm going to make sure my stroke is activated on my toolbar in the front, and I'm going to fill it with white. And then I can come with my direct selection tool. I'm going to select the outline of my tank. For my fill, I'm going to leave the stroke black, but then for my fill here, I'm going to change that to black. And now I have a black tank top. So this is the only time that I would choose a contrast thread color or do a different drape line. Otherwise, we always use black. I know it's fun to play around with colors, and I'll see students, you know, that want to do, you know, they choose like a slightly lighter shade of the blue for the inside back neck. We don't do this usually in the industry because a factory could misunderstand the sketch and think that this tank top has a lining that's a different color, or they might think that it's a double layer tank top, or they might think it has like a contrast panel or something. So by doing the gray, that lets the factory know this is the inside back of the tank top. So this is how I sketch. This is how I learned to sketch. All of the companies I worked at did it this way. Now, it is possible that you could work someplace and they want you to use a lighter shade. You know, every company works a little differently. I'm just kind of letting you know how I want you to sketch, but just be aware that if you go, you know, to a company in the future, they might ask you to sketch a little differently.